As much as you don't want to do the hard things, it is when you are the proudest of yourself. As much as you don't want to take on the challenges or hard things, it is the thing that's going to grow you and stretch you. And isn't that what life is all about?
Hello and welcome to mcgrawesome Sauce, the podcast all about helping entrepreneurs level up to become awesome. My name is Nick McGraw. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. Today, I get to talk to Mark Drager. Mark runs his own marketing agency called Phanta right here in Toronto. So it's nice to get to talk to a fellow Canadian. Mark and I talked about the ups and downs of building your own agency all on your own, from hiring staff and gaining momentum only to lose it all when you have to go through a recession. Mark is an entrepreneur who has helped countless entrepreneurs launch their own businesses. So he's kind of like an entrepreneur that helps other entrepreneurs. I can't wait for this episode. I hope you enjoy it. Mark Drager, what is going on, my friend? Thank you so much for joining me on mcgrawesome Sauce. I'm super pumped to talk to you, man. I'm so glad you're here doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you, man. I am excited to have you as well. I love the name. I love the branding. I love everything about what you're doing, honestly.
Well, you know what? I have to appoint my background and my room a little bit like what you going on. I'm not going to pick the yellow and the black like you got, but I've got to get my pinks and my greens all organized back here. And I'm thinking of making one of those neon glow signs with my logo and just like stamp it to the wall.
I love it.
And then I'll just keep it on all the time, right? I'll just have it all evergreen.
You know, it's even easier and better and faster and cheaper than a custom neon sign. Vinyls, man. Custom vinyls, print them, put them on the wall, get them all there. It's gonna look awesome.
And then I'll just keep them on there. I'm not going to be moving them around. Once they're on, they're on.
They're on.
They're done. Yeah, they're on. I'm probably taking the sheetrock off with them when I leave this place if I want to take them off. They're a permanent fixture. Mark, thank you so much for being with me. First question right off the bat, as you know, that this is an entrepreneurial type of podcast where I like to ask entrepreneurial questions. How is your chunk to hunk challenge going?
right on the entrepreneurial thing. It's going well. Today at the time of recording,
it's all business here.
There you go. Time of recording, it's day 11. So I'm 11 days in. So I was thinking, I usually go for 1 week vacations. 10 days of vacation sounds like a luxury. I'm already on the other side of, if I took a 10-day vacation, I'm already on the other side of that. So in the last few days, the magic wore off. The fanfare died down. Of course, people are supportive and people are very nice. But now I'm just in the middle of it. So it's a 90-day challenge where I'm trying to go from chunk to hunk. And I'm 11 days into it, which means probably I would say then for the next 70 days, people will continue to just be like, is he still talking about this thing? Before we get close to the end and it gets very exciting again.
I've been following you along with that thing, man. I love how it was like, it's probably still hard for you, but like in the beginning it was hard and you were grinding and I could see it wasn't just like sweat, it wasn't just physical exhaustion. I could tell the mental part of this, and I'm so glad you were letting us in to see that and to see this separate thing that's happening in your life, because man, whether it's pandemic or no, any type of 90-day challenge or any type of training for Warrior Dash or Tough Mudder or just on your own because you want to, find some sort of, great health and great shape again. This stuff is hard, man. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's in the good economic times or the pandemic times. It's hard, man.
Yeah, it's so there's 2 points there. I mean, it is hard, but that's why I'm doing it. I'm the host of the We Do Hard Things podcast. And the reason that I'm doing the We Do Hard Things podcast was because I don't think that in the past, I don't think I've taken on challenge as aggressively as I could have or should have. I don't think that I move as quickly as I could have or that I should have. And so I started that podcast because it's I felt soft and I felt slow and I felt inefficient and like I was wasting my potential. And I thought, you know what? I need to be around people who have done things tougher than me to remind myself that I've got it pretty good, that I have these skills, that I have these gifts, that I have this time, that I have this health, that I have all of these things. Because I was so focused on the things that I didn't have, it was very hard for me to get grateful. So it's okay, so let's first of all let's understand that for me and for almost everybody who's listening or watching, as much as you don't want to do the hard things, it is when you are the proudest of yourself. As much as you don't want to take on the challenges or hard things, it is the thing that's going to grow you and stretch you. And isn't that what life is all about? And so we start the podcast. I start talking to people who have done the most remarkable things. I start to absorb and learn. And then my team challenges me and says, how can you be the host of the We Do Hard Things podcast and not show the hard things that you do?
Oh, your team
And
knows you so well.
well, but for me, it's like, well, so like the hard things that I did, like today in my day, challenge aside, today in my day, I realized that I was falling this week about 15 hours behind on key projects. So I had to last night have my team scramble. This morning I had to brief them so I could hand it off to them to free up time for like that was my hard thing I had to do today. But I'm not going to go onto Instagram as an entrepreneur and be like, yeah, because we're falling behind because of me on this client consulting work that we're supposed to be doing. I don't want to like, that's not happening. That's not happening. We're not doing that. I mean, maybe it's a great reality TV show, but this is what we do as entrepreneurs. We do hard things all the time. But my team said, Mark, we need to create something flashy, something more meaningful, something that people can grab onto, because the hard things that we're doing as entrepreneurs, no one's talking about. And so that's why I came up with this physical challenge, and it is hard. And part of me goes, oh man, all I got to do is put in the reps, the time, and in whatever it is, 89 days now, or I guess 79 days now, I'll get what I want. So it's like easy, because it's like, I'm going to do it. There's no way that I'm not going to do it. And then at the other side, every single minute of every single hour, I'm just like, why did I do this? And what is, so that's the challenge.
That's, you know what, man, I love that. And the fact that you're gonna, like you said, you're already focused on like coming out the other side of this, and it's gonna be a win-win for you and for the team and just for everybody, and for me as a fan too. So I can feel your like positive energy coming through the screen. I mean, it's really good stuff. And I wanted to, so now I'll ask you a real entrepreneurship question. Okay, this is now not nothing to do with chunk.
There's no bait and switch here.
No, I promise this is a legit one. And you sort of already touched on this, and I've been in your life for a few months now. I've told you that I'm a huge fan of Something to Prove, the other podcast that you do, and your whole vibe and your whole energy, and basically you as a brand. I know you also run your marketing agency, but I mean you. I'm a big fan of Mark Dreger, and that's why we're friends, and that's why we're talking. And I really want to know from you, from your voice, not as like a soundbite I can use later. Not, whoa, what would you tell other people? I want to know what being an entrepreneur means to Mark Dreger. Not what you would tell other young entrepreneurs what they should do, or give us your top 3 tips. I don't want anything like that. I want to know from you, Mark Dreger, what does entrepreneurship mean to you, or what does being an entrepreneur mean to you?
Yeah. I actually struggle with that term. And I don't know if it actually applies to, I don't know if I want to wear that mantle. People call me an entrepreneur. You call me an entrepreneur. I use the word entrepreneur all the time. But when I started my company in 2006, I was 23 years old. My wife wasn't working. My daughter was 7 days old. And I decided that I'm going to quit my $45,000 a year job as the sole breadwinner to start this company and Phanta Media. And at the time in 2006, we weren't entrepreneurs. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was a business owner. I was a small business owner. That's the term we used, business owners. And anybody who started back then knows, I joke with people of my generation, it seems, where it's like, yeah, we were business owners. And then somewhere around 2010, 2011, 12, whatever, it's like, oh no, we're entrepreneurs, right? But I have one business. That I've built. And that business, luckily for me, is a marketing strategy company. So I get to work with hundreds of businesses. So I've also helped build hundreds of businesses, but I've only built one business. And to me, the entrepreneur is the person who, in my head, the entrepreneur is the person who goes, this is a great idea. This is really quick. How do we do it? Great, get it into beta, get testing. I'm going to go grab VCs. I'm going to all this stuff. And so I struggle with the word because those type of entrepreneurs scare me. They deep down, I get super intimidated by them. Their risk profiles are way higher than mine is. All of these things, and I want to be around them, and I want to learn from them, and I want to suck that stuff in. But all that stuff intimidates the hell out of me and scares me. And so I know now in 2021 that the word entrepreneur doesn't mean the same thing it did 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever it is. But for me, whether you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, a freelancer, none of those things matter. For me, what it comes down to is, am I helping people? Gosh, how do I explain this? Or even I can't even find the words right now. It's not about the control. It's not about it's me knowing deep within myself that this thing that I'm crafting, our offer, our company, our team, our culture, this thing that we're building just can be the most extraordinary thing, can drive a ton of value. Like that's what entrepreneurship is to me. It's the crafting of the thing that I know can help so many people if we do it right. That's like it's like an artist creating something from their soul. That's what entrepreneurship is to me.
Do you think it's a bit more visionary and a bit more?
It is for me, but to what I was saying earlier, whether you're a freelancer or an artist, or I think actors are entrepreneurs. I used to go to a church where I felt like the pastor there was a spiritual entrepreneur.
Okay.
So I use the word like evangelism outside of Christian context, because
Okay, yeah.
people evangelize certain points of view and certain things. So the same thing that makes you an evangelist or a brand builder or an entrepreneur or an actor or the leader of a NGO or a philanthropist, like all of this stuff is the same essence, and you're just applying it in different fields, and we call it different things. But I think what you're doing is the same thing that John Lennon was doing. It's the artist within us. It's the thing within us that we express in different ways. That's, I don't know, it's magical, isn't it?
I think I'm picking up what you're throwing down. It's almost like breathing life into something and pulling the essence out of something. Michelangelo used to say that when he was started with a brick of marble, the sculpture was already inside it. I just needed to chip away of the extra little bits. And they called him a genius. And he said, no, I'm not a genius. I just breathe life into this thing. And honestly, anyone can do this, right? He was always really humble about it, but like he knew the sculpture was in there. He just needed to remove the extra bits. And there you go. You have one of the most timeless pieces of art.
Let me ask you, what's the difference between the laboratory research person who's asking these questions, running these tests, doing these hypotheses to try and have these breakthroughs, and the entrepreneur who's starting their second or third business, trying to get money, trying to get the team, trying to get all of that stuff, and the person who's trying to launch their little local community theater program? Like, what is the difference between all of these people, other than like they're all curious, they all have a vision, they all have an idea, they're all in the pursuit of something, they're all using their God-given skills or talents or whatever it is at work, and the only thing that changes is the structure or the environment they're working in, whether it's for themselves or for someone else or for money or no money or whatever it is, and how we judge how beneficial the outcome is, right? Someone cures cancer, bravo, right? They're super great. Someone takes a company from 0 to $1 billion and exits or whatever it is. Wow, they're super, like, it's all the same thing. This is why I actually really struggle when people are like, oh, what's the We Do Hard podcast thing? Like, why? I want all of the guests. I want everybody. I say, like, because entrepreneurship is only one part of it. And so what can I learn from the songwriter or the poet? What can I learn from the designer or the architect? What can I learn from the person who works at a research facility versus the college or university CEO? Like, it's all the same stuff to me.
I think two things can probably be true at the same time. you sort of asked me like what do I think, like what's the difference between the community member who's building like her own like theater troupe, right, for the community, or the NGO, or the super corporate office gig, like if they're all trying to do something creative and bring a solution to the world. And I think that's one of the things. I think to be an entrepreneur or be entrepreneurial in your life's pursuits,
Hmm.
I think you're probably several things at once, and you're probably there's probably more than one answer. Two things can be true at the same time. I like the fact that we've kind of defined it here as like breathing life into something and bringing it to the planet and bringing it to the human race, and said like I made a thing, but then
Hmm.
also so it's that having the vision, it's being that visionary, and having and being able to stick to something, and imagine if Michelangelo didn't finish the David, right? Imagine if it was just from the waist down, we couldn't, like there's no legs, he was just sticking out of
Yeah.
the block, right? So having the wherewithal to pursue it and to finish it and to see it out. But then also I think in modern times, in modern entrepreneurial pursuits, it's also problem solving, and it's also bringing a solution to the world. You mentioned the curing the cancer, or building a startup, because we know this startup has a solution to a very real problem that people, they can't do this on their phone, or they're having a problem doing that. Well, this app will solve that, or this tech startup has a solution to that, and let's make your lives easier. So some of it feels very artsy and very artistic and very creative, and some of it feels more like ones and zeros solving a problem. But I think maybe when they combine and get to live in the same space, maybe that's true entrepreneurship. And I don't know if we're gonna reinvent the definition here today, but I feel like that feels good. Like that feels right when you solve a problem and breathe creative life into something. Maybe that's it. What do you think?
Listen, I love entrepreneurs, and I love the speed. I love the hustle. I love the way they think. I love that they take on the challenges. I love that they take on their own responsibilities and they don't wait around for someone else to come and solve their problems for them. So if my whole rant before that, don't get me wrong, I love entrepreneurs. I love working with them. I love being a part of it. And even I notice, like, I go to a gym, I can't help but become friends with leadership in the gym.
Yeah.
I go, and my wife starts to get mad at me, actually. Like, she's part of an acting group, and I get invited to a dinner or something before all this stuff happened. And I would have to like zip up, because otherwise I would like I would find the people who naturally are in a position of leadership, and I become friends with them and I get to know them and all this stuff. And it's just, I like being around the people who are making decisions. Um, I don't know if it matters what your version of entrepreneurship is, or if you're doing it or not. But if you're doing all those things that I just listed, which is, again, taking on the responsibility for yourself, taking on the risk, driving yourself forward, problem solving, as you said, driving real value in value creation, that's the thing that I really respect within people. And the only reason that I bring in all of these other things is because I also respect it in people who do that in a different channel than entrepreneurship. I respect the pursuit of that more so than the role, the title, or the structure you're using to go after it.
You mentioned that you can be risk averse.
That I can be? I mean, I am.
You are?
Or do you
You
mean
are.
one? You mean one could be risk adverse?
No, I meant Mark Drager. Mark Drager,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
said here, if I were to
yes,
scrub back through our conversation, Mark Drager, I know, probably said something, I'm
yeah,
paraphrasing, that I am, Mark, you don't
yes,
like risk that much.
yes.
And yet,
I don't.
I've heard your story, and I know what you've done with Phanta, and one could come to the conclusion that you're actually very good with risk and you manage it very well. And it might have scared you, and it might have been something that was uncomfortable to you, but you've weathered two pretty big storms. The first big recession that you've ever had to weather in '08, and now this one.
Mhm.
And you seem to go from strength to strength. And I've only known you for a short time, but in the amount that I've consumed you, both on one-on-one and in recordings of like podcasts or interviews or anything like that, I'm getting a very clear picture of Mark Drager. And I don't know, man, you just seem to for someone who doesn't like it, you seem to do it enough. And I can't help but think you're starting to become comfortable with it. I know every risk is different, right?
Yeah.
There's very little risk in, not taking the right exit on the highway or something like that. And then there's much bigger risk when, do I put $150,000 into my company today as an investment? Like there's much bigger differences, right? So like, how do you feel about, I know it's almost a ridiculous question because it has many answers, but should entrepreneurs and creatives and business people and all those things, like what's your opinion of this idea of risk, and how comfortable are you? Are you getting more comfortable with it? Do we have to, I mean, you're the host of We Do Hard Things, like what that could just be called We Take Risks. Like I don't know, man, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I've thought about risk a lot. So I started my company, as I mentioned, 2006. Yes, 2008 was a challenge. 2009, I pretty much had nothing 3 years in. So I was, my first year we did 100,000 revenue. My second year we did 185,000 revenue, and the third year I don't know where we were at, maybe 300 or something. But we hit that year, and it's like I only had 2 staff members, and I had to let them go. I only had a handful of clients, and none of them. There's a 3-month period where we did 0 revenue, not like no projects, no invoices for December, January, and February, or at least January, February of March of 09. There was nothing. I had a little bit of money in the bank, maybe like for a business, a little bit of money, maybe 80 grand or something, and it's just like paid the bills, watched all the cash disappear. And so that experience, and I mean, I have a longer story, but to save time, like that experience of like rebuilding and having nothing, and then in 10 we built more, in 11 we built more, and I can remember the milestones where it's like 350 revenue, and then 650 revenue, and then 990 revenue, and then 1,040 revenue, and just like we plateaued at 1 million for a few years. But that build, it felt like, because I lived through 08 and 09, I lived through that recession very early on. It felt like at any moment the next recession I could watch all of my money disappear.
Yeah.
I could watch everything disappear because I've done that, and my experience was I've been through a recession and I lost everything, and I had to rebuild from nothing. And so as I'm building up this company, and as I'm building up this team, so we can go from, 1 million to 1.5 million to 1.8 million, and we're going from, 12 staff to 15 staff to 24 staff, and we're above 2 million and all these things. And, I know that traditionally a recession comes every 7 years. And so like in 15, I'm like, wonder where that recession is. And
Yeah.
then and then 16 we have a new president. I'm like, wow, this recession is. And then in 17, and then in 18, so I'm literally biding my time, going there's a recession that's going to happen. So not only is that slowing my growth, because I have the brakes on everything, just waiting for the rug to get pulled out from me, so that way once again I can have no clients with any work. I can let go of all of my team. I can run out of cash, and my wife and I can then find ourselves 10 years later, or whatever it is, in the same situation we were in 2009. And I did not have the energy to rebuild that. So this is what's happening for me. But a few things along the way I learned. One, I've learned this the hard way over the last 3 years, but there's a tremendous amount of risk in inactivity. That I realize in January that a staff member isn't a good fit, but I wait and I wait and I wait. Oh, it's going to be too hard. It's going to be too, the clients count on them, all this stuff. And then by September, they disappear. And it was just as hard. It was just as difficult. It wasn't better that in January I knew there wasn't a good fit, and in September something finally happens. The risk of this time that I lost, because it was just as challenging and just as hard. And what I've learned is like, oh, that inaction is risk. The risk wasn't in January when I realized the person wasn't a good fit, of letting them go right away and dealing with the hard thing. The risk is actually in me doing nothing, and then dealing with all of these challenges that are distractions. And then at the end, having to deal with the hard thing anyway. And so really what I've learned over the last few years, and then especially during this most recent thing we've worked through, is that moving quick will cost you, but moving slow will cost you too. Moving quick is scary and hard, but moving slow is a giant pain in the ass in the long run anyway. Moving quick is like, you're going to make some mistakes, but at least you're going to learn them really quickly, and then you can divert and change. And so that's the way that I look at risk now. And when you say I'm getting more comfortable with it, I think I am over the last even 4 or 5 months that I'm getting more comfortable with it. I don't want to over index. I don't want to get so bullish that in 6 months and 9 months and a year from now, I'm going, wow, I took on too much. I went too fast. I over invested. I ran out of cash. Like, that's what I'm trying to avoid. But I think I found a more comfortable place with risk.
I'm so glad that you brought up that story of how you knew it wasn't a good fit in January, but you waited until September, and then September it finally got resolved. I can't remember if I read or I heard it recently, but if you have a problem or you have pain, the pain of not taking care of this thing feels manageable to you because you're so used to it. You're used to it, right? Whether it's a physical wound on your leg or your tooth hurts, you're like, no, it's been hurting for a year. I know how to manage it. I know how to sleep on it. But you not doing anything at all, this is going to get worse. Okay, this is
Yes.
going to be a wound that festers, and then it's because you're uncomfortable with change, right? And so you thinking that I don't know how to make the change, or maybe you did know how to make the change. You didn't want to have the hard conversation in your case, whatever it is. But in a very generic sense for other people and even myself, you doing something, well, because this is the way it's always been done, but you know it's wrong. Changing is the pain for you. Okay, that's the pain right now in front of your eyes. Consciously, you're aware that, oh, I have to change all my systems. I have to re-automate, I have to retool to make this better. And I already know I have to do that, but you refuse to do it. I mean, you, in the generic sense, one refuses to do it because they just don't know how, and it's too hard, and it's too much. They can't take it on right now, so they manage the pain that they are currently in, but that is not sustainable. You know, that's not a winning solution. And in your case, it was pain in January, continued to be a problem until
Yeah.
September, until it resolved itself or got resolved. But you could have made the change earlier and then saved yourself all that much. So I'm so glad you brought up the fact that it is risk, it is pain, but the pain we will go through if we don't make it, like if you're stuck at a dead end job and you know you're meant to be doing something else, how much longer you can stay there? Another 2 years, another 3 years,
Yeah.
right? It's until we get that realization in our
Well,
lives that I can
so,
manage this pain with something else.
well, I mean, yes, I know that you're recapsulating something that I said, but I think you've articulated really well, which is what I do and what I think a lot of people do. So let's use this January to September example.
Okay.
It got painful enough that it had to come to a head. And I've realized that I wait until things, this is why I procrastinate as well. I wait until things are kind of dire. I wait until things are so painful that I go, you know what? I almost become apathetic. I'm able to release this, like, this cathartic, like, you know what? Things are so bad right now that I don't even care if it all falls apart. And then once you're able to do that, so this January to September, what happened was things got so bad that I started reaching out to clients and not giving them a heads up, but I started mentally going, okay, we can afford to lose this client. We can afford to lose this client. We can afford, how do I figure out how to lose these clients? Because this is going to be so traumatic to my business that I'm going to lose people. I didn't lose anyone, but I got to the point where it was coming to a head and I had to say, like, any change is better than what's happening right now. So let's go ahead and get this fixed, and I'm going to lose some people. And then the change takes place. It worked out really well for the staff member. Actually, it worked out really well for me. But no, yeah, we had 6-week period where we had 0 people to deliver these services for clients. And so, but it was all manageable. It was like, I reached out to the clients. I said, do you want us to put you on pause? Are you comfortable not being on pause? I'm just letting you know there's this disruption in service because of yada, yada. We were able to manage the clients. We were able to find a replacement. We were able to build. We were able to grow. We were able to rebuild. Like, all of that stuff happened. But what I realized was I got to stop waiting till things come to a head. I got to stop waiting until it's so dire that I'm just willing to like, and we've been in this, you've been in this in your life, right? Whether it's relationships or whether it's staff or whatever, whether it's clients or business or your family or investments or money or debt or whatever it is, you hit this point where you're like, screw it. I just can't keep doing this anymore. Whatever it costs me, I don't care. I can't be in this relationship anymore. I'm leaving. Or whatever, I'm sorry if you're going to fire me, client, but I just have to tell you the truth because I just can't keep doing this anymore. What I learned is if you can get to that point faster, or if you just start to embrace that more, which is doing hard things, that you can just deal with that challenge right away, not wait for it to get so dire that you get to that point, but realize, oh, I'm someone who does hard things. I can manage my way through this. Yeah, there's going to be some things that happen along the way. I don't know what they are. And that's the truth. Like anything you imagine probably won't take place. And the things that actually go wrong, you couldn't even imagine. Like you just wouldn't even think of it. So what's the point of wasting time imagining it? That's what I'm trying to live in.
Mark, this has been incredible. And I'm like actually fired up from this conversation. I may not look it on the outside, but believe me, I'm going to go like run 4K after this. So it'll be really, really good. Yeah, I'm going to do my own chunk to hunk. See how it's come full circle? Mark, this is something I ask everybody. At least I try to, in the vein of growth mindset, in the vein of chasing down your goals, things like that. What is next? We already talked about like some of the ways that you've grown, and I'm so glad you were able to share that with me. What is next for like Mark Dreger? Is it something that's maybe next for Phanta or something that's next for Mark? Like, what do you see on the horizon? It doesn't have to be a specific timeline. Like, what's next?
Yeah.
What are you working on next? Like, what's next for you?
So 21 has been transformative for me. Actually, 20 was what's transformative. And now 21, I'm getting to live the benefits of it. Because in 20, I didn't believe in myself or my future. And in 21, I actually do. And that belief that, oh, if I try these things, it may work, it may not work, but I'm okay, means that right now I'm focused on a lot. And so we are in the process because of the year we've had, or the few years we've had. I shrunk my agency. I contracted my company. I went from 24 staff to 6. And so like this year, we onboarded a new person on Monday. I already want to onboard 2 new people in June. And by the end of the year, I want to bring on 2 more kind of executive level people in order to knock this out. Because I liked my 24-person team. I liked my resources. I want to get back there really, really quickly if I can. So we are aggressively growing Phanta, the agency, and I'm very aggressively focusing my time and energy on it because it's not about just the money; it's the time and the energy. In the fall, I think I'm spinning off part of my business to launch it into a new business, and this is part of what believing in yourself and thinking about your future is. So we're focused on that. And then, of course, these challenges. I was just talking to my team this morning. I was like, "What's the next challenge going to be?" So in the fall, I'm probably going to do another challenge, and those are the areas that are just firing me up the most. Like I'm so fired up to rebuild this company I started in 2006. 14, 15 years ago. Like it was so long ago and it's been through so many iterations, but I cannot wait to build what I have up here in my head and then see what happens.
Amazing, man. If I can make a suggestion for the fall, Mark Dreger Lumberjack Challenge, where you're doing axe throwing and chainsawing, and I'm going to see you on one of those Canadian like shows where you're just chopping through the wood that you're standing on, and you're going to do lumberjack
putting up the things, pulling myself
up.
Yeah,
chopping it, and then putting the wood shank and climbing up that. Yeah, I can see that. We'll do a Canadian
why don't we try doing those fireman drill things where they're like running with the ladders and then they throw the ladder and then they up the ladder? Have you seen those?
Yeah. Okay. We'll make this work. I don't know how we'll do it with masks on if we have to, but we'll make this work.
Honestly, you may be hearing this first. I may be skydiving, even though
this year,
literally, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Even though it literally scares like the piss out of me. The thought of it.
I'm so glad you're saying that. I was supposed to do that for my 30th, which was 3 years ago. Girlfriend had it all paid out, had it all planned, and then it was like a sign. like I was ready to go. Like she's like, okay, in 3 weeks you're going. Like it's all paid for, credit cards done. Like you're good. I got you the big package where you don't have to be in tandem with someone. If you take an 8 hour learning how to fold your parachute, you can do it on your own. I was like, oh, let's do the harder one, right? Because I'm like you, I want to go do the scary one. Forget being strapped to someone. I'll jump, I'll cannonball out of the plane.
I don't want anything to do with any of this.
The instructor who owns the school, who's very hands-on with all his students, had some horrible, harrowing like stomach cancer or something that show up in his body. And like I got like the email 2 days before, like I like I am in the hospital, like I can't like do this for you. I'm happy to like postpone, but like this is late September and the weather's getting worse, so
Yeah.
we either do this next year or I just give you your money back. I'm like, dude, take care of your health. Long story short, right, I didn't do it, but like, maybe Mark Drager and I can go skydiving.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where, well, here's the thing, like it just makes me uncomfortable to even think about it,
Okay.
which means I probably should do it, right? Like,
I think
right,
you have
like
to do it.
if you can't, you must, right? If you say in your head, I can't do that. Now I have to do it. Now I have to. So there's that, but really, like I've had this not that I don't even say dream because I know it's going to happen. I just don't know when. But I want to ride across America on a dirt bike. So there's this trail that goes from, I think, North Carolina on the coast all the way to Northern California on the coast, and it's 40 days. It's called the Trans-American Trail, and I like the idea of doing that. But and it sounds like a lot of fun because I dirt bike and I like all those things. But the thought of riding 400 miles a day on a dirt bike for 40 days straight, actually probably the fun will wear off maybe 6 or 7 hours into the first day. So that might also be a challenge that I do.
Mark Drager, skydiver, dirt biker, Navy SEAL. What else is impossible? Deep sea welder, where he's like welding at a mile below the surface of the ocean on an oil rig, right? They get paid like $1,000 an hour to do that. So maybe it's hard, but maybe it's worth it.
Who knows where these hard things will take me, but if you want, you can join me on this journey. We Do Hard Things podcast. You can look it up.
Awesome. Besides that, where can people find you if they want to get in touch with Mark Drager?
They can look me up on Clubhouse. If you're on the app, I have a lot of fun there. You can just look me up, Mark Drager, or on IG.
Amazing. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.